Welcome to the Tech and Accent podcast.
Here you will learn about being an expat, working abroad, technology, and more from non-native English speakers. Let's get into it.
Welcome to another episode of Tech and Accent. Today we have a special guest that is living in Stockholm. Welcome to the podcast, Lucas.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for the podcast. Thank you for inviting me. It was super nice to be here.
Thank you for being here and for your time and sharing your life with us today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
How cold is for you today?
Today is actually pretty hot. It's 1 degree. Yesterday we had minus 18. Actually, the whole week was kind of minus 16, minus 17. The week before was also very cold, like minus 15, something like that. So yeah, I would say it's quite okay-ish now. With 1 degree, it's like positive, right? So when it's positive, it's like t-shirt material.
Yeah, I guess it's the perfect weather for Stockholm.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like the absolutely perfect, but for like a winter weather, I would say it's pretty hot, to be honest. It is usually like below 0, but in the summer here it's pretty hot. Like not pretty hot, like quoting this, because it's like 25, 27, something like this. But since everything is built for the extreme cold, it is pretty hot, even with like 15, 16 degrees. It gets pretty hot inside the houses.
Do you also have problems to sleep in the summer with this temperature?
Yeah, sometimes. It depends on on my first summer here, I got, I think we went to 27 degrees, and I lived in an apartment that was completely made of wood. So basically it was a small oven. So it was quite difficult to sleep. I had to buy like a fan. And everyone had the same idea, right? Because everyone tries to buy a fan, and we didn't have a lot of fans in stores and stuff like this. So you kind of have to, plan ahead when you have to buy a fan. So yeah, it was quite hot. Lots of I had a humidifier in my place because it gets quite dry as well. So yeah, it's not the easiest solution to sleep in the summer here.
It's important that you brought this. I think nobody ever talked about this before, but the humidifier, I had no idea about this when I was in Brazil. And here I had to buy because it's so dry. I have problems in my skin because the winter. I don't know if you have too, but it's so annoying.
I do. I'm having it right now, actually. Every time there is like winter, it gets drier, even more dry than here. And my hands start like to, I don't know how to say this, like escamate. They say it's called eczema. It's like a thing in the skin, but I didn't have this in Brazil at any times, but here every time, like my fingers, they start like to dry out, and you have to pass along like moisturizer. Not like just the humidifier doesn't help. So like if you get like a big humidifier for like the whole place, or even one for each room, you still are going to you sleep a bit better, but you still have skin issues. So you always need to have like moisturizers and lip balms. This one I fortunately don't have a lot of problems like lip balms and stuff, because my lips don't get like cracked or anything. But my hands, Jesus, it's terrible. It's I think it's the driest climate that I've ever been.
Oh, I feel your pain. Here is exactly the same. And
yeah.
Now that we started talking about this, it was a nice introduction. I didn't expect to hear this from Stockholm. And
yeah, it's quite close to, I think, to other super cold places. One thing that I think it's a bit different is that the summer here is also pretty hot. I think it's the biggest difference, I think.
Yeah, I think, no, the summer here is the same. What you said is like 27, but it's an oven too. Like I cannot sleep.
Wow.
I prefer the winter with 1 degree than the 27. And of course I prefer the sun, but if you have to choose between 1 degree and 27 in Montreal, I prefer the 1. But my perfect
Wow.
weather would be around 20. That's perfect with sun, of course.
Damn.
Yeah. Not a bad problem, right? A good one to have in
Yeah,
life.
that's actually a good problem. Like, I prefer a cold weather than the hot weather, to be honest. I'm from São Paulo, right? So I actually don't like hot weather at all. Especially like I don't know how my parents or everyone in Brazil is like living right now, because it's super super hot in there. So
Oh yeah,
it's
in Rio too, right?
yeah, Rio. I heard there was like 60 degrees, something like this.
Yeah, and this was the reason I left Brazil. One of the reasons, of course, I had many, but this was one that I really didn't like in Porto Alegre. Was always hot. So if you are listening now, have the same problem. Montreal is hiring, so maybe you can have a switch to winter often in your year. But yeah, that was my motivation. One of.
Yeah, same thing here. There was one day that I think it was 37 degrees in São Paulo, and I actually had like I went up in a hospital because like my apartment was super hot, extremely super hot. So I was like, no, I don't want. I really want to be somewhere colder, but I didn't expect that it was gonna be so cold.
I feel completely. It seems the same story, but in different places.
Yeah, I guess most of the like higher countries, like higher in latitude, they suffer from the same ideas. Like every winter, every part when it's super cold is super difficult to kind of live. But when it's summer, it's also super difficult because everything is made for the winter.
Yeah, so let's see if the good things of both places are matching too. And before starting the podcast, today I will change the order of the question that I always do. The common question that we always do is like, what was your most embarrassing moment living abroad? And it's often done in the end, but today let's start with this. Could you share us your most embarrassing moment?
Well, my most embarrassing moment, I think, like work, everything. Like the day I felt most embarrassed was like 2 weeks after I arrived. I was starting my work here at Klarna, and I didn't know a lot of things, how it works and stuff like this. So I deployed like a new system and stuff that we were doing, and we had to deal with a few pipelines, so a few CI/CD pipelines. And I looked at one of the codes and stuff like this, like, oh, that's fine. I think we can just like update this YAML file. Then I updated the YAML file, and then I pushed it. And then I instantly broke the whole pipeline for the whole company. Like no one could publish anything, no one could build anything, everything broke, just like everything stopped. And apparently this was something that had already happened like a few months before I arrived, but it was related to something completely different from the things that I was doing. I don't even remember what it was, but I even saved the message when we eventually fixed the problem. That was fine, but I was super embarrassed because like I published it and instantly my name popped up in all the channels, like, oh, apparently this is the last PR that was merged, and boom, my name, boom, my name, boom. I was like, what the hell is happening? And then this problem was fixed, but apparently it was an ongoing issue that happened a few months before, and they had fixed it, but apparently not entirely. So I kind of brought it up again. So I even talked to the guys, oh man, I'm sorry, I messed it up for everybody and so on. And it was like, no worries, man. We can deal with it, and hope nicely that you found it up, and that you actually helped us to bring it again and to make it better and to actually solve the problem. We hope this time for good. And I think we solved actually for good, because we never had any other problems like this after that.
In the end, it seems the people were happy that we kind of solved the problem, but I guess in your mind you were really worried, right?
Yeah, super. Like, it was my first week in the new job abroad, like from another country, and I kind of just like broke the main pipeline of the company. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm definitely not going to stay. And eventually, like, I realized that it's not. This is one of the things that I really like here, like maybe another topic that we can just like jump in. But one of the things I really like here is about how things are not about you. It's not about finding someone that is guilty of something. It's more about finding a solution to something. So that's super cool. I think that's one of the nicest things that I ever experienced in here.
No blaming culture or pointing fingers, right?
Yeah, no blaming culture at all.
Yeah, that's awesome, and here is the same. I had a similar experience, and I don't know you, but I had a big imposter syndrome when I arrived. It took me like 1 or 2 years to get rid of the syndrome, but my first year was horrible because I always thought one day they are gonna discover I'm not enough, I'm not good. And I stayed with 1 year thinking like that and putting pressure on me. And when I had the same issue with you, like I destroyed the environment of the pipelines because I copied one and it was too much machines for the Jenkins pipeline, and the build system shut down, so they wanted to know who was the one that created that. In the end, they were laughing because the name of the pipeline was CACA, that is Canada, but the CACA in French, it means also shit, so they were really laughing, like, who made the shit here? And in my head, with imposter syndrome, I was really worried. I don't know if you had the same.
Yeah, like I think imposter syndrome is always something that is present, I would say, for everybody that kind of leaves their home country and goes to work in somewhere else, because I think we always think that we are not enough, especially when you're talking about development and work that is highly creative and stuff like this, because you always see so many cool people and so many cool projects that are being done in the ecosystem, and then you think, why me? Why was I chosen to be here? And then I think it gets me, like, every time, every month, every day, I kind of feel about like this. But I think one of the things that you can do to, kind of reduce, I wouldn't say remove the imposter syndrome, it's more like think that how much you have already achieved being there. And in my case, what soothed me a bit, like what actually helped me a lot, was like, okay, I literally just arrived here. I have 4 days working in the company. I hope they will take this into consideration when getting this mistake. But it was actually way better than I expected. Like, they were super, super understanding. They were like, no worries, man. We have like this idea of, if it broke, it's not just your fault. It's our fault as well, because like we are the guys that take care of the pipeline and we didn't validate your code. It's an obvious error that we could have gotten, like linters or stuff like this. So they kind of shared the blame a bit, which is a nice thing. They are not like trying to push, I'm completely flawless, because someone's manager wants everyone to be flawless and stuff. So this is a good thing that comes up in the culture, but I reckon that it's not everywhere. It's not something that happens every time and everywhere.
And you said you also had the why me? But now I want to do the same question for you in the good term, like, why you? Could you tell us why they chose you to go to Sweden? Because I'm sure you are good. You have a lot of strengths, and you show this in the interview. So
yeah, I don't know why they chose me, to be honest. But I've been working with technology for 13 years now, 14 years now, and I know a few things like how to work, especially with web. But I think I don't know, like I'm really I don't think I can say why me, because if you look at the other employees here at Klarna specifically, my other colleagues, they are all awesome. Like we have a lot of good people, like technically good, communicatively good, management. Some of them are really good. We have people that are like technically core members of React Native. We have core members of Node. We have a bunch of people that are really good in what they do. Like they are building the ecosystem. But I think it's not about like why you, is like everyone is good at something. I just showed it better for them, and they thought I was a better fit in Klarna, for instance. Now I'm shifting the companies. I'm not working at Klarna anymore. Like I think I'm leaving in 1 month, a bit, something like this. But the other company that I'm going is a startup, and this one I think I was chosen more because of my previous experience with the technologies that I have. So I've been working with JavaScript and web for 10 years, and it's not something that you have to throw away. And this is something that actually helps you a lot when you have imposter syndrome, because you can look back in your history and you can say, hey, I've done this amazing things, like I've got here, and this is what I've achieved, this is what I know, these are things that people are not going to take away. Like no one can take away the 14 years of experience I have with web development. So this is something that I'm going to carry on forever. So you keep piling up experiences, and if you're new in programming, or if you're feeling this and you're hearing this right now, sometimes it just takes time, and we know like sometimes you can be very anxious to get stuff, to know everything, especially when you see a lot of people doing a lot of good things, but no one actually stops to analyze their way, like the way they're living now, like their moment in life. They might have been 30 years before they got to that point specifically, and you have 3-4 years of experience and you want to get the same place. So sometimes it's just a question of putting things in a balance, I would say.
That's awesome. And you talked about JavaScript and TypeScript. I also saw many videos, not videos, but everything like content from you on internet about this. Could you tell us a bit of that initiative?
Sure. I think content creation is one of the things that I like the most to do. So I've been creating content since 2015. So it's almost 10 years creating content. I started because I have ADHD. I didn't know back then, but I forget things very, very easily. So I like to study technology in general. I like to know things. I like to study everything in general. So I kind of like to study in general. And I forgot a lot of stuff. So I said, okay, I'm going to create a way for me to note my things. And then I started taking notes, private notes. And then a few of my colleagues at school, they were like, oh, that's a very good note. That's a very good thing that you mentioned here. Can you share this notes with me? And then a lot of people started actually asking me to do this. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to just publish these notes in GitHub, and you can get it from there. And there is the repository called My Notes that I created. That is basically like everything I was studying, I was just writing about it. Like as I read the book, or as I did the examples, or as I practiced, I just wrote everything in there, and then I published in GitHub. And it actually grew a lot. I don't know. Let me take a look. But I think I wasn't even expecting this to be the way it is today, because I've never actually shared this with anybody else, but it's like 300 stars, 57 forks. People actually like this thing, and when it started growing, I was like, wow, that's actually pretty amazing. And I started like getting up a notch a bit, so I started creating content like in form of articles. That was, I don't know, 2014, 15. So I started writing articles basically every week. I wrote one article of the thing that I was studying at the moment, because I was gonna forget. Definitely, I was going to forget. And most of the times, that was just the sole reason why I did things. So I wrote everything in Dev2, a Medium. Back then, Medium was just starting. So I started on Medium, started creating content, and then often I came back to my own content to get some references and stuff that I did before. And after that, I started doing more. When we shifted more towards the video producing, that was a bit like 2018, 19, when we had more video creation. I got influenced by a friend of mine, Eric. Most people know him. He's very famous, Eric Wendell. He said, why don't you do YouTube videos? Might be a good thing for you. And I was working at Microsoft at then, and I was working at developer advocacy, which is basically creating content. And I was like, wow, that might be a nice thing actually. And I suggested that we did YouTube videos back in my team, and we started doing a few videos here and there, and I kind of liked it. So I started doing my own channel with my own videos and stuff. Eventually I kind of stopped a bit because it takes way longer to create a video than to create an article. So I started creating articles first, and then transforming those articles in videos. Then I started doing social media posts and stuff because they are also easier to do. I got a few people to help me when it started creating, getting bigger and bigger. And I kind of made this my second job, creating content, because I kind of like to study, and people like to read about, to actually know about it. So today I'm teaching a course in TypeScript. For now, it's only Portuguese in Brazil, but I plan to expand these things further, like try to get the things that I like to do, which is basically study and learn, and move that to other people, so people can also study and learn and do a lot of things. So that was how it became a thing to me. I didn't start creating content because I like to create content because I want to be a YouTuber, or because I want to be famous, having a lot of followers and stuff. No, I started creating content because I forgot stuff. So I think that's the main reason, and I still do it because I forget stuff a lot. So that is the thing.
I should follow you and do this with books, as I read books, but like 3 years later, I kind of don't remember everything, or maybe I remember, but I don't have it in my top of the mind. But it's a good idea.
What helped me a lot, like I'm actually going to write an article about this, but I think we have commented in Twitter a few times about Obsidian. So basically, I discovered this last year, like the end of last year, October, I think. And Obsidian is a note-taking app. Basically, you can take notes, and the difference between one and the other, between Obsidian, the thousands of others, is that you take notes in Markdown, and these Markdown files are basically there, and you can link between them using like Wikipedia style links. So you can kind of create one link to the other files, and Obsidian builds like a graph of your knowledge. And this is one nice thing, because Obsidian is fully made in JavaScript, so you can actually have a lot of plugins that help you do a lot of stuff. And in the end, it's just Markdown, it's just text files. So you can move text really easily. And I was using Notion back a few moments back, and Notion, there's a big problem that Notion has a proprietary format that you kind of have to abide to, and you cannot export stuff unless it's in the Notion exportation formats that you have, PDFs and stuff like this. So one thing that I recommend you is, like, if you're reading a book, like what I do in my Obsidian, I have a note called library, and I linked this library note with all the books that I read. So I have a link to each one, and there is a plugin called book search. So you can actually search for books in Amazon or stuff, and they get their metadata and cover photo and everything, and they build like a very nice note for the book. And then you can actually start taking notes on that book and link it to whatever you are studying. So you can take separate notes on things that you're studying. And let's say, let me give an example with TypeScript, for example. I'm taking a note on what is TypeScript. And then I can say, oh, TypeScript is a JavaScript superset, and then I can link that to JavaScript. And then JavaScript, I can also implement more things if I want, like, oh, JavaScript is this, and this. And then I can say, oh, TypeScript has this following features like generics, union types, mapped types, and each one of those can be another note. So this is kind of how I do it. I'm gonna publish this in public. Like, I don't like to learn in private. So I'm going to publish all my notes and my whole digital garden, that's how they call it, to the public, so people can actually see it. I'm doing way more stuff in Obsidian now, like I'm doing journaling of these ones. I obviously not going to publish, but I'm doing journaling, I'm doing tasks, management, timesheets, everything that I kind of put on my life, I'm doing there. So it's nice, like especially to when you're reading books and stuff like this.
So you don't use Notion anymore? Only Obsidian?
No, I do use Notion because I work with the TypeScript course. The thing is, I'm not doing the TypeScript course alone, so I have a small team of people helping me. And Obsidian is not a team app. You cannot kind of share notes or invite people, so it's a single thing. And Notion is way better for structured data. So Obsidian, you can actually put up structured data in Obsidian, but it doesn't feel right, because you have to write. There is a plugin called DataView that allows you to do tables and queries and stuff like this. So you kind of can structure data with tags and stuff, but it's not the same. And then in Notion, for all my professional stuff, I would say, like courses, the social media stuff that I do and everything, I use Notion because it's a very structured format. It's like a table with what is the title, what is the description, where I'm going to post it, when I'm going to post it, when I'm going to write it, and I can integrate that now that the Notion has a Notion calendar, which used to be called Cron. You can actually integrate the dates with your own calendar. So that's basically the source of truth for me. Like the calendar for me is my only source of truth. So everything that I put in there is synchronized to everything else. So tasks, to-do lists, and stuff like this. So that's why I use Notion. Basically, when I have structured data and professional data that I have to work with other people, and Obsidian is basically a dump of my brain. Like it's literally, if I take a export of my brain, it's gonna be my Obsidian.
That's awesome. So you can integrate with AI and become one singularity.
Yeah, I think there is like some plugins to integrate with ChatGPT and stuff like this. But ChatGPT is something that I'm growing fonder of. But I like to write manually as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use Notion, and I have a playbook that I created there. Mm-hmm. And because I know some people are gonna judge me because this, but my keyboard is in English and I don't have the Portuguese characters, and I don't configure it, so I just write without the correct Portuguese. And with Notion, I just ask AI, please correct my text, and it corrects everything. Like, I really feel the integration with AI, and I love that.
I have the same keyboard. I don't use Brazilian keyboards anymore. I only use English international keyboards. But I do configure them to have dead keys, so you can have the accents in the letters. But I got so used to it in the past years. I've been using this type of keyboard for, I don't know, 7 years or more, that I cannot write in the Brazilian keyboards anymore. So like I am super slow when I'm writing in Brazilian keyboards.
Exactly. I have the same issue. And you were talking about something I was curious. You said that you started creating content a long time ago.
Mhm.
When was the year that you that you went to Stockholm?
I came here 2021, November 2021 was my 15th of November 2021 was my first day here in Sweden.
So was your first time abroad, or you
No,
were
no.
living? No.
Not live. Yes, living. Yes. To live abroad was my first time. It is my first time living abroad, but I have been abroad before. I came to Europe in 2017. In just like a trip, like an Euro trip with my ex-girlfriend, and we went to London, Rome, and Paris, I think. And that's actually one of the things that got me really into moving out of the country. Like I really wanted to go to London. Actually, Stockholm wasn't my first option. So and after that I went to a lot of other places. Like I used to do a lot of talks internationally. So I went to Seattle, I went to Peru, to Argentina, Chile. I came to Europe, like in Germany, I think, Belgium a few times, Canada once, but mostly just like 1 or 2 days. Portugal as well, but mostly 1 or 2 days, like one day for the talk, and then I went back the next day. I didn't actually stay in the country to have the experience. But yeah, not my first time abroad, but my first time living abroad for so long. Yes.
Okay, so my question now is like, do you think the creation of content helped you to get a job abroad?
Definitely. I actually talked about this today. I'm one thing that people ask me a lot to do is to let me get some context. I'm not a very social media guy person. Like I don't do a lot of posting like in Twitter. Twitter is my main network. Like I like to rant about stuff in there, but I don't do a lot of Instagramming, reels, like these things. And it's very difficult for me because I'm very like kind of anti-social stuff. So I don't post a lot of myself, like me. So people started asking me like, why don't you start answering questions about things that you do? Because I'm curious about this and that and this and that. And then I started like, okay, let's give it a shot. So I started creating those question boxes in Instagram, and people actually started sending some questions for me, and I was answering one of them that was actually this same question today. It wasn't you because I know who he was, but it was like if I know that content creation brought me here, and the answer is absolutely yes. Like I cannot stress enough how content creation helped me in my career alone, because like one of the reasons I got my job at Microsoft was because I created a book. I wrote a book about Kubernetes, and it was 2017, I think. 16, I think, I don't remember. And this book was back then when Kubernetes was rising up, like was the new technology that everyone was talking about. Was a very good timing, to be honest. This book was one of the best-selling books in Brazil about Kubernetes and stuff. So I kind of got like a very good timing stuff in that sense. And one of the reasons why Microsoft came to work to look for me was because they saw my book and they wanted me to work on the Kubernetes team, the AKS team, in the advocacy of the AKS and containers team back then. And I was like, wow, that I wasn't expecting it, because like financially wise, creating content is not the best option, because like books don't make you rich unless you're like a worldwide bestseller, or you write a lot of books, like I don't know, 50 books. Then you can kind of make a living out of those. But usually it's not that much of royalties that you get out of for each sale of the book. And creating content, like normal content, let's say like YouTubers, TikTokers, Instagrammers, and stuff like this, you can only make enough money if you're famous enough, like if you're big enough. And usually this content the money that you get from those are from sponsorships and stuff like this, is rarely just for views and other things. So content creation by content creation itself is not something very, financially sane. But I always did it because I liked it, and it definitely opened me like most of my opportunities that I have now. And there is a saying that the one that is not seen is not remembered. So basically, if you want people to notice you, if you want things that you do to matter, or to not to matter because they matter, but if you want people to notice the things that you're doing, you need to speak, like to scream it out. Just send it over there. People are going to either like it, most likely dislike it, because that's how people is. And basically, they just send it over there, and like it or not, you were out there. So the thing is, you can continually, this is called public learning or public sharing. There's a very nice article about this from Swix.io. It's another blogger, that he says that everything that you do, you have to do it in public, because every time you create something in public, you teach a bunch of people that become you become their reference. I have an article talking about this as well. You becoming their reference, and the more people you become the reference to, the more authority you build on a specific subject. And because you build authority on a specific subject, you become a very, very nice candidate for most of the companies. Like, who wouldn't like to have a very authority guy on, I don't know, Node.js or TypeScript or, I don't know, Kubernetes? So that's something that helps a lot. The counterpart is that you actually have to do stuff, right? So you cannot just talk about it and not know how to do this. So if you're doing this because you like it, and because you're reading, because you're studying, and you're doing those in your work normally, then you're good to go. Like, because I think it's the most important thing that the most important advice that I've got was that if you want to make sure people will notice you, you have to be in the open. You cannot be noticed if you're hiding inside your room every day. So that's basically it.
And how did you learn how, to speak in public? Was it always easy for you, or you had to learn?
That is a very difficult question, actually. No, I never thought about it. It was not easy for me because I'm very shy, like in general. If I have to speak in public, not today. I'm more used to it. But if I had back in when I was young, it was super difficult because I couldn't stand a lot of people looking at me. That was my biggest barrier to break, like either looking or knowing what I do, or judging my work. So I had to learn. My father, he is a very good public speaker, so he taught me a few ideas. And then I obviously had a bunch of friends that helped me in these, ladder up to try to speak more and try to do more talks and stuff. But most of the times I just went, like, I was afraid, and I spoke with my fear anyway. Like, I was there all the time. I was just like shutting it down because I know I had to do it. So the more you speak to the people, like the more public speaking you do, the better you get at it. So I think it's a matter of practice, a bit, a matter of luck, and a matter of I would say perseverance. Like, try to go in and try to, even if you're afraid, you do it anyway. And for me, it was more about, like, I had to learn a few things, but I loved to teach people. That was something that changed a lot for me. If I was presenting, it could be like a schoolwork, like an essay or something. I always loved to teach things to people. Like, I always loved their expression in their faces when they learn something new, like when that things click. It was like, oh my God, now I understand this. So I always loved to do it. I was a teacher I taught English for a lot of not a lot, like 2 years or so, for kids and teenagers back in Brazil. And then I love the idea that sometimes they would just like look at me and they started speaking in English, and they didn't even know how they got there, but they were speaking in English. And then I was like, yes, congratulations, you're speaking in English. And they were like, oh my God, I'm speaking in English. That's amazing. So I think that idea of teaching helped me a lot in public speaking, because to be a teacher, you have to be a public speaker. You have to kind of know how to handle yourself in a crowd. And you can start it with small crowds, and then you can move up to bigger crowds. So I guess that's the idea. But it's not natural for anybody, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for my case, I was terrified to speak. I went to Toastmasters. I don't know if you know it.
Ah, yeah, we have one in Stockholm.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it changed my life. And my first time that I went to a meeting, I kind of saw people speaking, and I thought, okay, I will stay here in the last row, and I will say nothing. And I stayed there, and I didn't have the courage to speak anything. So only my third meeting that I was able to speak, I had like 30 seconds or 1 minute to speak, and I did in 15 seconds. I was
Holy
so
shit.
shaking. And Toastmasters helped me to learn how to speak. And do you know TDC in Brazil, the developers conference?
Yes.
So I went to the TDC and I spoke for 100 people. That day was really hard for me. I was nervous, but I was smooth, and it was nice. And in that event, I found my job in Canada. So if I have to go back to our conversation about sharing content or public speaking or teaching, this is the secret, in my opinion. Like, this helps everyone that wants to live abroad, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think like TDC was my first big conference as well. So I went to Florianopolis in I don't know when, but it was like 150 people. It was my biggest audience until then, and I kind of froze a bit, start shivering and stuff, things like that. So it's normal, I would say. But yeah, I completely agree with you. Like I think content creation is something that has been stigmatized as something, you're going to create content because you're a YouTuber and because you want to be famous on the back of other people that are watching you doing stuff. No, there are people that do this, but if you want just to create content to educate, to make people see other points of view, or just because you like it, it doesn't mean that you need to have this end goal of being famous. Some people that I know, they are excellent speakers, they are excellent teachers, they have channels, and their channels are not like big or anything. Like they don't have enough engagement, I would say. Like they're super good, and their channels don't have like, there's not that big of a channel, and they still do it because the people that engage with them are the ones that really like them. So like you have the most faithful base of fans that everyone would like, and you have basically a lot of people that like the same things as you. So you're discussing a thing that you really like, and you're creating stuff that you really like. So I think that's what content creation is all about. It's not about becoming famous. It's about showing the world what you want to do and what you like to do and how you can do it. And if you do it really good, basically to show it that you are very good in this. So yeah, I guess it's more about you than about others in general. Obviously, if others like it a lot, that's even better. But it's not the end goal, I would say.
Something I learned with Tony Robbins when I went to his conference, and he really motivates people to try to help others. And one of the reasons that he says is, when you help others, you realize that your problems are not the worst. And since I started, I think it was in 2019 when I came to Canada, I created a YouTube channel, and I did it for 2 years every week. But the pandemics came and I kind of got a depression and I stopped. And then I returned to Twitter, and I met you and other people that are awesome. And now I feel like, okay, I'm part of a community of people like me. I'm here to learn, to share, to find friends. So it's also for us when you share, because we're there exposing ourselves to new people and learning. So I really like it.
I agree. I think the idea of having content being created and people not focusing solely of the engagement, like they call it this vanity metrics, which is basically number of followers, the things like this. So these vanity metrics can let us very upset. I'm gonna tell like a very interesting story, a personal story that I usually tell people recently, that I started comparing myself with a lot of people. I have a lot of friends like that started 10 years ago creating content and never stopped. And these people right now, they are super big. Like they have thousands of followers and stuff like that. They're like 10 times as bigger than I am. And I always compared myself to them because like, what am I doing wrong that I am not creating enough content, or my content's not good enough? Why people don't like me, but they do like them? What is the whole thing? And I actually went to ask them, and they were like, man, I don't think your content is bad, actually. I think your content is better than mine. The thing is that I think your content is just deeper, and people don't want to see things deeper right now. Like the algorithm is because it's shallow things, and I don't like to create shallow stuff. Like I don't like to create content that's just like shallow things. I like to go deeper into stuff because that's how I learn. And I was like, yeah, that's maybe correct, maybe not, I don't know. But then I realized that it's the thing, it's the moment. You cannot compare yourself to other people, especially if you're going like in social media, because they're all in different moments of your life. And there is a guy here Wesley, he created School of Net. Now it's Full Cycle Academy. He was one of the biggest mentors I had. I don't know if he knows this or not, but indirectly, he said that one day, like if you're stopping in a red light in the street, and you have like 5 other lanes in your street, same street, and then the red light opens, like becomes green, and all the cars, the other 4 cars with you, they all go forward. But if you're like in the street, you're not racing them. Like you don't put like your first gear and then go first and to get as fast as possible somewhere, because they are going in different directions. Like you're going somewhere, they are going elsewhere. And even if you go as fast as possible, you will not reach where they are reaching because you don't want to be there. You want to be somewhere else. So in rare cases, you and some other people might be getting in the same place. But when you compare yourself, you're comparing yourself against the other cars in the street. You're all going to different places. You don't know where you're going. They don't know where you are going. So racing is useless. It's pointless to compare yourself. Oh, I'm going to be faster because I'm going to get there first. But it doesn't matter if you're trying to get home and they're trying to get to, I don't know, Argentina. It doesn't matter. So it's different things. So I try to learn not to compare myself, because this was actually being harmful to me, like getting myself like very anxious or depressed. So I just try to create my own content and not to think about these things like others are doing. I obviously like to follow others to see what they are doing because they also create awesome content. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna follow them, I'm gonna watch their content because they're also super good, but I'm not going to compare my content to their content because this is not a competition. This is more like a, like you said, a community. We are all creating things, and then we make these things amazing, and then we try to make the best content that we can with the time that we have and the resources that we have.
That's awesome, man. I wish I have heard this before, because this would really help me. Like before coming to Canada, I was always comparing myself, like, oh, why they are better than me, especially in CrossFit, my sport. I always compared myself, okay, why the guy is stronger than me? He just started. And once my coach said, "Hey, stop. You don't know the background of people. You don't know where they are coming from. You don't know what they did all their life before CrossFit. So maybe they're stronger from another sport. So that's completely fine to be less strong than someone that just started. Stop comparing." And it's really helpful. And thanks for sharing this. It's really even helping me with the transit. I sometimes I have problems with cars. It's gonna be helpful.
Yeah, like the thing is, there is a thing called sonder. I actually really recently discovered about this. It's an English word. I don't know if it's anything beyond English. I think it's a noun, sonder. It's the meaning of this is that it's the acknowledgement that people have lives that are as complex as your own. So if you can put this in YouTube or Google or whatever, it's gonna bring you some really nice texts about it and videos. But imagine like this. Imagine that we live in a movie, right? So you are always the protagonist. You are the main character, and your close family and your close friends, they are like the support characters. The ones that that it's part of the movie. But everyone else, it's an extra. Like, so the person that is in front of you, like a girl in front of you in the bakery line, this girl is an extra for you. You're never going to meet her, you never talk to her, anything. Like, she's never gonna talk to you, and your interaction starts there and ends there. As soon as she goes out of the line, you're gonna never meet again. So for you, she could just like cease to exist, because for you it's just like when you're in a video game, the thing stops being rendered if you're not looking. So we are so focused on living our own lives that we only think that our lives matter, like the only lives that have some complexity and meaning are the ones we know. So it's our lives and the ones from the support characters, the ones that are close to us. But we forget that other people, these extras, everyone that you go by the street, everyone that goes in a car in the street when you're walking around, or every kid that you see in a park, they all have their own lives, and their lives are just as complex as your own. Because if you had this your past's experiences, your everything that you learned from the past and everything else, they also had this, and they also have their own traumas, their own fears, their own motives, their own goals. So comparing yourself is not really the same thing, because when you compare stuff, they need to at least do the same final thing, right? That's why we compare cameras, that's why we compare computers, because a camera is made to take pictures. So basically you can compare one camera to another camera, but you cannot compare like a camera to a microwave, because it's completely different stuff. That's what happens when you compare yourself to other people. You are a camera, but everyone else is completely different things. You are comparing yourself to your friend, and your friend might be, I don't know, a blender, and that's it. And you're doing completely different stuff. You're super good on what you do, he's super good at what he does, and you are comparing yourself on why you cannot create amazing juices when you can create amazing pictures, right? So it's completely, if you put it that way, you see how absurd it is. So that's one of the things that I struggled a lot, and I'm still struggling to learn, because it's difficult to not to compare, right? It's difficult because we all think we are the same, and we're not. So I think that's a lesson that I'm still struggling to put in my mind. But I hope people that are listening to this, and also if you have these problems, and everyone else that's listening to this can take a few things out of this, I hope.
That's awesome, and it's really helpful. Thanks for sharing it.
Yeah, no worries.
I have some questions just to finish this podcast, that I would like to bring back the podcast to Stockholm, because I'm curious about your life there. So if you have to tell us something, like what is your the thing you most like in Stockholm?
What I most like here, I think, is the it's all, I don't know the word for this, but it's like yeah, I know, it's like the environment. Like Stockholm is a very calm city. It's a capital, like one of the biggest capitals in the northern Europe. I think it's the biggest city in all the Scandinavia peninsula. But it feels like a countryside city from Brazil, because it's very big, but at the same time it's not that big. So you can cross the whole city in, I don't know, 45 minutes. You can meet a lot of the same people that you met before in different places, because they are all in the same regions. So it gives you that sense that it's very big, but also gives you the sense that it's very small, and it's super beautiful. Like Stockholm is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen, especially in the summer. In the winter, kind of everything is a bit gray, but in the summer, I think everything is super like green and verdant, and it's like super nice to be outside during the summer, because everyone else is also outside during the summer, and people are super chilled. They're like, okay, I'm just taking, I think they are more like the Sonder thing that I told you about. Like they are minding their own business. They just want to be there and enjoy their own moment of sun and stuff. So it's a very calm place to be.
Yeah, you said about Sonder. Now you talk about Stockholm, and I think about Montreal, and I think about Sonder. So it's nice.
Yeah, it's a thing that you can apply to a lot of stuff, I would say.
Yeah, I think you still can compare cities, but I think the concept of Sonder applies to cities too. And,
yes.
And talking about cities, what is the thing that you most dislike in Stockholm?
Well, Stockholm has a problem, which is like, it's not Stockholm specifically, but like, I would say that it's a very old place, right? Stockholm is one of the oldest cities in Europe. So I think it's more because it's not made for, you know, more modern stuff. So even though they are, you know, people are constantly modifying and making more technological and stuff like this, Stockholm is not a very vibrant people place, I would say. Like it's not somewhere you're going to and it's always, you know, filled with people. Most of the times it's very chilled, which is nice if you like it, the chill parts. But also most of the things here close at 9. So like if you want to do anything else, or if you want to like order food after 9, you can't. So it's impossible. Which in Brazil was completely different, right? Because in São Paulo we had this like 24/7 services every time, and here, and I think it's most like myself talking about this, like most people don't mind it, but like if you want to do something, you have to do it before 9 or before 10, because not even the public transportation sometimes works after 10. So it's a very, which is nice, because sometimes like people have like their definition of this is time to work, this is time to rest, and the work-life balance here is very good. So I think that's the thing that I dislike the most, is like there is not a lot of options when you're doing a lot of things, because it's kind of all the same on that particular part, like on things to do and things other things to you know, walk around and stuff like this. I would say that if you're into clubbing or partying, Stockholm is really not the place to go.
Oh, that's new for me, because all the techno that I like, it's from Sweden.
Sweden is a very big place for music. Like music here in Sweden is very big, like really big. So a lot of artists are from here. Like you can, I like a lot of metal bands, right? So Sabaton is from here, Hammerfall is from here. A lot of other bands are also from here, or Finland, for instance. ABBA, The Carpenters. You have a lot of Avicii, for instance. So a bunch of people are from Sweden, and sometimes you don't even know they're Swedish. Like if you look at their places, their discography and stuff, you're gonna see, oh, this girl, this guy is Swedish, and I didn't even know that they were Swedish. Because I think they have this cultural development in schools, like you learn music and you learn to make music and stuff like this, but they make the music in other places. So like they are from here, but they play it somewhere else. So I'm not gonna say that we don't have clubs here. Like there is clubs, there is the nightlife, of course, but it's not as vibrant as if I would say like Berlin or Ibiza or these kind of places. You know, it's more like okay-ish thing. It's a more chilled vibe.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, the techno DJ that I like is called Adam Beyer, and I met him in London. And I went to London as a tourist, and let's see what is this club here. And I entered, it's called Fabric. It was a big fabric with like 3 dance floors, and Adam Beyer was playing in the main one, and the bass was under the people. Like it was so different from anything I experienced in music scene. And since then I love him.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah. So
I've never been to a place here in Stockholm. I'm not very into clubbing, so I'm not super. I'm not the best person to talk about this.
Yeah, I quit clubbing for a long time, especially when I came to Montreal. We still have one of the best in North America, but I don't go often. I'm too old. I cannot go to the clubs anymore.
I feel the same, but I'm not that old, to be honest. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I understand you. I also love heavy metal and rock, so I know why you don't like it. And
Yeah.
I have a final question for you today. That is the final message, but it's more a final message to the person that would like to go to Sweden one day and is thinking about living abroad. So what would you suggest to this person?
If they're thinking about living here in Sweden,
Like, let's say that you wanna teach Lucas from 2013, someone that is not the same with the same experience and same knowledge, but now you have the knowledge and you are teaching yourself back. What would you give the advice for this person to arrive in Sweden?
I would say like it's not a Sweden only thing, but moving out of Brazil won't make you instantly rich. Like this is the thing that we have in Brazil, that if you move to Europe or United States or Canada or whatever place you want to go that's not Brazil, you're gonna be, you know, the rich cousin of the family, the one that got everything right, the one that, you know, the person that got all their cards played correctly. That at least that was the way in my family. So I think the advice that I give is that if you move to whatever you want to move, let's say Sweden, you're gonna have the same problems they have in Brazil. The biggest difference is that it's gonna be a different environment. Some of the core problems that we have in Brazil, let's say security and you know, this type of stuff, will be less, but they are still existent. But you're gonna have other problems that are bigger than that you don't have in Brazil. So the advice is don't go out of the country just because you think that if you get out of Brazil, you're gonna be instantly resolving all your financial problems, because this is not what happens, especially in Europe. The taxes here are super high, but the social disparity here is way smaller than Brazil. So put things in a balance and do a very good research if you want to move to somewhere you've never been. So try to, if you can, try to be at the place, try to feel the place a bit, to see if you want to do it, because even though it's not a permanent solution, like it's not a permanent choice, you can always go back, but it's a hassle, you know, to kind of go back. You moved everything and then you come around to the place and then you stay 3 months and then you have to move everything back. It's not like you're moving houses in the same street. You're kind of sometimes moving thousands of kilometers away, so it's difficult. And in my case, I liked it a lot. I wasn't expecting, so I didn't come here with a lot of expectations, and I was like, well, this place is very actually nice, and I went all in. So if you really like it, go in for it. But if you don't like it, don't be ashamed of going back or doing more research or trying different things. But don't think that just going out of the country will solve all your problems.
That's really important. I don't know in Sweden, but in Montreal, I met a lot of Brazilians that they have a really proud feeling of, I will not give up. I will stay here, because if I go back to Brazil, it's gonna be a shame for me. But they are not happy here. Montreal was not what they wanted, what they expected. So this is really good advice.
It's not like, oh, you're leaving the country like Brazil is like some proving grounds. You need to prove yourself to get to be worthy enough to leave. It's not like this. Like actually a lot of people that I meet here want to go to Brazil. So it's not, Brazil is not that bad if you really think of it. We have very good infrastructure, we have very good people, especially. Obviously we have our problems of security, of social disparity. That's a thing that we have to sort it out, right? So that's the thing, that it's not only it's not Brazil only problem. It's not something that only Brazil has, but it's something that's very preeminent in our country. But it's not something that if you leave, oh, now Brazil is like this, and then I'm going to leave somewhere else, and then boom, everything's going to vanish. It's not like this. It's not because like, oh, you have to prove yourself to get out of Brazil. If you like it, you liked it. If you didn't like it, you come back. That's the only place right? So, or you can go back to other places that you like the most. Let's say you went to another country and you like it more, you go there, and that's it.
That's awesome. And Lucas, thank you a lot for sharing all your knowledge, your experience. I'm sure it's gonna help people because it helped me.
Super glad to hear it. It's what I like to do, helping and teaching. So if you have any questions, anything, if you anyone that's hearing this wants to talk to me, just reach to me in any of my socials, and probably it's going to be here in the description, and I am more than happy to help or do anything. If you want to move to Sweden also, just drop me a line. I help a lot of people moving here with websites, things to compare salaries and stuff like this, because I had the same problems, so it's super difficult to compare.
That's awesome. And yes, your contact will be in the description. So thank you again, and thank you for you that is listening, and see you in the next episode.
This podcast was edited by Ralf Carneiro.